One thing I really wanted to bring up, just based on your book, that really interests me was people's predictions 100 years from now. So in the
Yeah, they should look at other people's predictions and realize how futile this exercise is, and just give up and just go out and have a beer.
Yeah, no. At the beginning, was it 1899 or 1900? They started making the predictions of what 2000 will look like.
Right.
And if you kind of explain some things they couldn't look past and things of that nature, I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, there's a guy who was head of the New York Central Railroad. We're riding high on transportation. In 1900, they had airships, railroads crossing the country. The Orient Express was crossing Europe.
Yeah.
They had the bicycles. The modern bicycle had been perfected without that dangerous big wheel up front. You just add it all up. The head of the New York Central Railroad, predicting the year 2000, said, "We can scarcely imagine that the advances in transportation in the 20th century will be as great as those were in the 19th.
Wow.
There is no
wild to
more
me.
boneheaded statement anyone could possibly ever make. 3 years later, what happens? The Wright brothers.
Wright brothers.
All right.
They couldn't even think past steam.
They couldn't. Right. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's crazy. Okay. So
I got another one.
Yeah.
Because I do it. It's in the chapter Exploration and Discovery.
Yeah.
And I'm just showing when you're on an exponential growth curve of anything, it looks like you're in special times.
Yeah.
But like you're not, because it's all special times. But we think linearly rather than exponentially. That's why we get it all wrong. You get the next couple of years right in your predictions, but 10, 20 years out, just go home.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got one. Ready?
No, yeah.
Back to the Future 2, 1989.
Okay.
Do you remember what year that took place in?
2015.
2015.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Oh, by the way, in one of my social media posts, I listed things they got right and they got wrong.
That was so. I remember everyone waiting for 2015. It was like October something 2015, and we're all looking and we're like, oh,
There's no hoverboard.
Yeah, no flying cars or nothing. Okay. So in there, he pisses off his boss and he gets fired. All right. Now this is 2015 relative to 1989. Okay. I remember 1989. If you had a fax machine, you were badass.
and were you?
Okay. I was both. I had the fax machine and badass.
Hell
right.
yeah.
Right.
I was wondering why your wife got with you, and now it makes sense. You
In fact,
know,
we married in 1988. So
I
that
mean,
would be it.
a freak at printing out the sheets and in the sheets. You know what it is.
So here's the point. He gets fired, and this is the home of the future that he's living in. So he's duly notified by fax, but this is the home of the future. There are 3 fax machines, and they show you it coming out of 3 different fax machines in his home. And so all they could think was that a modern home would have more fax machines than just one. And in 1993, AT&T had an ad campaign that was pretty successful. It said, "You will." So if you ever wanted to da-di-da-di-da about the future, you will, and AT&T will bring it to you. Well, one of them was something I've never wanted to do, never did do, never will do, never dreamt of doing. They showed someone on a beach in a chair, and he had a tablet in 1993. And it said, have you ever wanted to send a fax from the beach? Well, you will. AT&T will bring it to you. No.
I'm on vacation.
I mean, even I don't even think I've ever seen a fax being sent through.
No.
I mean,
Yeah, it's very old.
Yeah.
No,
It's a noisy machine. It makes this whistling sound, which is it's like it belongs in a museum. My point is, people linearly extrapolate.
Yeah.
I have this many now, I'll have a little bit more later, rather than something completely different out of left field that they cannot imagine.
And what did AT&T get anything right in that campaign?
They got a few things right. They got the tablet right,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
That your computer would just be like a thin sheet rather than a big thing on your desk. They also got right, because this was a linear extrapolation, which worked, that you would never stop for tolls anymore. You're here out in LA, you don't know what a toll is. So back east, you go through a booth and someone takes money from you to give you permission to continue driving on the road.
And it's always
but you
like-
have to stop to do that when you were going 60 miles an hour. It's called a toll.
Yeah.
From the word troll, who would stand by bridges and force you to pay to cross the bridge. That's where we get the word toll from trolls. Anyhow, so now they're just electronic sensors.
Yeah, they just read
in
the license
archways
plates.
above the car, and they just
Because I think, the automobile was big for its time. Obviously, the plane, and then how quickly it went into the First World War and then the Second World War. And now it's able to carry nuclear warheads anywhere, not even being driven by or flown by a pilot.
Yeah,
Correct.
that was one of the most fascinating chapters when you were explaining the exponential growth of modern society.
Yeah.
And you were doing it
So I
only
actually
in
read the
30.
book.
Yeah.
Read the book.
Oh, yeah, we're here.
Yeah.
What?
I asked the
I made
AT&T
notes.
question. I already knew it.
Oh,
But no, they don't know. The people.
But yeah, and you were only doing it in 30-year increments.
Yes.
Which was the most fascinating thing.
1870 to 1900.
Yeah.
1900 to 1930.
Like
1930 to
even that, and then each time you were like, life in 1900 would not be, or life in 1930 would not be recognizable in 1900.
No
and
one from
each
1900
time-
would know what the hell was going on.
Yeah, because
What is that flying overhead? What is that thing? What?
like you said, yeah,
Right. And in 1900 there were no cars. Everyone's using a horse.
yeah,
We literally and figuratively built civilization on the backs of horses for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Why would someone in 1900 think that in 1930 you couldn't give away a horse? Right? They would
Right.
see these horse-drawn carriages without horses. That's how they would describe it, right?
It would look like the thing from Harry Potter, like the horses that you can't see unless you see it, but it looks like they're just driving by themselves.
There's always this fun question at every sleepover. If you could go
You still have
back.
sleepovers?
Well, I was going to ask if you're not busy
I thought
tonight. Sorry, I like to cuddle, Neil. Big spoon or little spoon,
Like,
Daddy?
how old are you? What is your
This guy, huh?
Did mommy warm your milk for you on the sleepover?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, she did. Single mother, she did a lot for me, actually. Okay, but the age-old question is, if you could go back in time, you have Wi-Fi somehow, and you have a smartphone, how long would it take you to maybe take over civilization? Or do you think they just maybe murder you for thinking you're doing magic?
If I carry what I know today back in time, you could easily take over the world.
Do you think you...
First, you just know what the markets did,
That's
and then you
true.
just play the markets. You can't do it too much because the fact that you do it interferes with the outcome. So it's a kind of an observer effect thing. So, but within a few months, I could just become the richest person in the world. And then I know what people's motives are. And
I just wonder how fast you could speed up society. Just you individually. You go back with all your knowledge, and it's like, could you get you go back to 1900?
no, you can't. I'll tell you why.
Why?
You can't just speed it up because a lot of bits and pieces have to come together. And they're brought together by innovative, imaginative people. So, the smartphone, for example, was not a discovery under a rock. Apple developed hardly anything that's in the smartphone other than the smartphone itself.
Yeah.
Right? We had the chips to carry music. They did the iPod. You remember, I don't know if you're old enough to remember the iPod. It's just a little thing. And Steve Jobs said, why can't we put the iPod inside a telephone and then put head plugs? And how can we track you? Oh, well, the U.S. military, Air Force, they launched GPS satellites. And under the Clinton administration, it split so that some of it could be used for commerce. Let's put a GPS detector inside your phone.
Yeah.
And initially people said, why would you want to do that? It's just a phone. oh, wait a minute. Let's put a camera inside the phone. Why do I want to put a camera? And so the people who resist it are not thinking of the utility it could be if it's all sitting in your pocket and it's not some huge device. Point is, Apple did not invent GPS. They did not invent digital storage, solid state storage. They did not invent touchscreens. Touchscreens were invented at the Library of Congress by a grant by someone who wanted people to be able to tour the place, okay, without having to print paper, without having to have to, and so they had these screens, and you could touch the screen and navigate maps of the Library of Congress for tourists, okay? So this was a grant from a government grant to do this innovative thing. It took off. Touchscreen, we take that for granted.
Yeah,
And-
no, big time.
Do you remember Star Trek 4, Save the Whales? You must remember that one.
Oh, I
don't,
mean,
unfortunately.
The movie, Star Trek 4. You still have the old crew, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
There's a scene, they go back in time to 1986, whatever. It was contemporary with when the movie was made.
Yeah.
And they have to carry a whale from that present into their future, because otherwise, because the whales are smart and they're running things in the future. Point is, they have to then put a whale, and they want to create transparent aluminum, which is strong enough to hold a whale in a tank, but transparent so that they can see the whale. Transparent, that's a weird thing. I don't know what that is, but it exists in the future. So he said, so Scotty says, do you have a computer? And they show him like a Macintosh, it's 1986 generation Mac. And he goes up to it and says, computer, he starts talking to the computer. And they're all looking at him. It's like, no. And then they hand him a mouse, okay? And then he picks up the mouse and goes, computer, speaks into the mouse. It's just you forget how much we just take for granted today.
I kind of want to, that makes me think about how even my mom was like, I don't need a cell phone because I don't need something constantly on me. People need to get a hold of me all the time.